Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, I will be discussing teaching daily living skills. My name is Ashley Lalonde, and I am a clinical supervisor here at Erin Oak Kids with the Entry to School program. Thank you so much for taking this time out of your busy lives and your busy day to listen to one of the recorded webinars from our ETS webinar series. Today, we will be going over a few different topics. So first, we will be looking at understanding what daily living skills are, assessing your child's daily living skills and their current abilities, and learning strategies to successfully teach life skills. So first, let's take a look at what is a daily living skill. Skills that are commonly referred to as daily living skills are routines or tasks that occur regularly or daily in someone's environment. These may include self-care tasks, home activities, or activities within the community. Oftentimes, these are mundane tasks that are so embedded into our lives that you and I might not even really notice them anymore. For example, I probably could have jumped out of bed this morning half asleep, brushing my teeth, brushing my hair, and not even really realizing I was doing it because it's so embedded in my routine. But for individuals with autism or our children that are still learning to become more independent, they may take some extra effort to teach and support. Some examples of these skills include self-care skills such as dressing, showering, sleeping, eating, putting on deodorant, brushing their teeth, or community activities like riding the bus, using a phone, personal safety, or activities within the home such as making a sandwich or cleaning up their toys, which they definitely work on every day in ATS. As mentioned, children may have difficulty learning these skills or performing them independently for a multitude of reasons, depending on the individual. Some of these reasons may include understanding the instructions or expectation, difficulties letting others know what they want and need at the time, the motivation to complete the task or lack of motivation to complete the task, as well as motor skills to complete the task, whether they be gross motor or fine motor skills. A couple more challenges may be including accepting changes in routines or transitions, organizing and sequencing information, managing sensory information, and modeling or copying the behavior of others. Listing these challenges is not meant to deter you, but rather guide you to consider what support your child may need when completing these tasks. So let's look at these challenges a little bit further. One area that poses a challenge when trying to teach daily living skills include actually understanding the instruction and expectation. Oftentimes, the child won't understand what they are supposed to be doing and don't understand the instructions that are being provided to them. As we know, individuals with autism often need extra help developing their communication skills, which does include receptive communication. Receptive communication is someone's understanding of language. So, if your child is still learning what words mean, this may cause confusion when presenting a new or complex task, such as a daily living skill task. We can help the child begin to understand a little bit more clearly by ensuring to use explicit one-step instructions. Instead of using a long sentence to describe what we're hoping them to complete, such as, hey, now it's time for bed. We need to go brush our teeth and get ready so that we can read a nighttime story. That's a big sentence. We can try and say, brush teeth, toothpaste on, scrub teeth, and continue from there. Next, we want to allow for extra time to process the information. Again, this is a lot of information to be processed. often by providing the child a few extra seconds to process the information before going in to prompt them or do it for them. This will allow them time to process the instruction that has been given to them so that they can try and do it themselves. Lastly, ensuring that you're completing the steps in the same order and using the same words each time is going to be very helpful. This builds on the predictability piece we have discussed many times. By following the same routine and the same words, your child will begin to anticipate what is coming next and will be more likely to be able to follow the instructions and routine more independently. Another area that could pose as a challenge is difficulties letting others know what they may want or need at the time. We can support the child with this by providing them with an alternative method of communication. So, this can include a picture card or implementing some gestures that a child can use to communicate that they need support, such as a read or a hand lead. It's also so important to pay attention to your child's nonverbal cues. So much of communication is shared through our body language and our facial expressions when we probably don't even realize this is happening. And our kiddos are no different. By paying attention to what they are showing with their bodies, such as turning away or pushing away with their hand, or what's going on with their face, such as a scowl or a grimace or closing their eyes, maybe, we can begin to understand that they may be having a hard time with the task that's being presented to them. Another common difficulty that's often forgotten is motivation. We need to embed motivation into a new or difficult task that we are teaching. If there's absolutely no desire to complete this task, your child will be less willing to learn or complete the task. For you and I, we don't likely need someone to praise us or give us a reward anymore to get dressed in the morning to change out of our pajamas, because this has been taught over time. And now we have been conditioned to have social motivators be our only motivation to complete the task. So if I walk out of my house still wearing my pajamas, the social motivator of embarrassment will kick in. However, this is very different for our children, so we need to teach them to be motivated to complete these tasks. This can include um, providing them with a preferred activity or teaching them praise or giving them a reward after. Another difficulty may include your child's motor skills. Please pay attention to these. Don't forget to consider the development of your child's motor skills. A lot of daily living skills, such as zipping up a zipper or using a spoon, really require hand and finger coordination. Your child may need just some extra support with the motor movements within these tasks. Try practicing to improve these motor skills, actually. Try practicing the skill outside of the routine itself. You can use zippers in play, or use your child's jacket at a different time where they don't have to complete the entire routine. So maybe just practicing that zipper piece on the jacket at another time so that they can start get to do those fine motor tasks more easily. And then another way that you can incorporate support for these fine or gross motor skills can be adapting the task or using adaptive equipment. So there are many types of different utensils to encourage feeding, pencil grips to improve writing, or different sized writing utensils, or different toothbrushes depending on your child's sensory needs or ability to hold the toothbrush and manipulate it around their mouth. Ask your clinician if you need support with this. Another area that we know is very difficult for a lot of our kiddos is accepting changes in routines and transitions. As we know, this can be particularly challenging, so it is important that we ensure what we are doing is setting up our child for success. This can include things such as making gradual changes based on what your child can tolerate. Changing too many things at once can be really overwhelming. So, by slowly changing these things within the routine, it will help give them a chance to get accustomed to the switch. So, maybe trying a different hat on some days versus always the same one in case that one gets lost or has to be washed one day. Or putting their toothbrush maybe on the other side of the counter, or the toothpaste cap open already versus closed. These small changes can really help your child get more accustomed to little tweaks in their routine and not be so upset if there's an unexpected change. Also, we can look at explaining to our child or preparing them for a change that might happen. This way, they are aware what might be coming up next and what to expect moving forward. And lastly, modeling self-regulation skills so that your child can calm down and co-regulate with you can be really helpful. So if it is a little bit more of a stressful situation or transition or change for all of you, take some deep breaths. Maybe take a couple extra seconds or a minute before we move on. This can really set your child up for success, and your child may start to imitate your self-regulation skills. Another area that we wanted to mention is organizing and sequencing information within daily living skills tasks. Often, daily living skills involve multiple different steps that need to be sequenced in a particular order to successfully complete a task. This can be really challenging. This is a really complex task, as it requires them to understand and maintain the order of events to fully complete the skill that they are learning. This is a lot of information to be processed and may take some time for your child to correctly process it. For example, if you're making a sandwich, you need to get the plate, get multiple ingredients, get your utensils, and then put it all together in a certain order. However, if we don't complete this in the proper order, such as we forget to toast our bread before putting on condiments and actually do the opposite, this could be a really big mess in the toaster. So again, this is a lot to process. Break things down small and give your child a chance to understand the organization and sequence of a task. We can support this by working on one step at a time. This can be that the child is doing one step and then we support them with the rest and gradually increase. We can also use a visual schedule or visual cues for each step. This would help the child visually see which steps are involved for the skill and what specific order to complete them. Finally, it's important to ensure we're completing the task in the same order each time. Again, going back to predictability, if the child knows what's happening in what order, they're more likely to succeed. Your child may also have some difficulties with managing sensory information. Pay attention to your child's sensory needs and preferences. Think, what bothers them? What do they like? You may have a child who is a little bit more sensitive to certain sensations on their skin or certain textures or touches. So if you know your child has certain difficulties with that, certain bristles for brushing their teeth could really irritate them. Maybe putting on certain clothing can disturb them as well. Just think about what you know of your child, what bothers them, and what they enjoy and how we can incorporate this into teaching the task. You can also alter the sensory environment as needed. So if you know your child might be sensitive to light or really distracted by lights in the room, or loud sounds, or additional movements or materials in the environment, maybe we can remove them or put them elsewhere while they're learning this skill, or we can dim the lights or go to a quieter environment so that they can focus while they're still learning to complete this skill. If you're really confused or you're not sure how to navigate this area, reach out to any of your clinicians or seek occupational therapy support to further investigate. The last area we may see challenges in when it comes to teaching daily living skills revolves around the child's ability to copy the behaviors modeled by others. As we know, imitation is so important when it comes to learning skills. Children really watch what's happening in their environment, and that's how they learn. So, if they're still struggling with noticing what other people are doing and copying that, they might have to work on this skill prior to developing complex daily living skills. So, try practicing imitation during play settings where you do something and see if your child will copy. When playing with dolls, for example, you can have them copy putting on a sock and they put on the doll's sock, or brushing their hair. They see you brush the hair and then they copy. And then maybe they're brushing their own hair in the natural context will become easier. We can also use prompts to support the child, but we will discuss this a little bit more in detail shortly. Lastly, we want to make sure we are providing reinforcement when we do see imitation. We want to make sure your child knows what they are doing is amazing. So give lots of social praise and high fives or a tickle when you see them copying and imitating the behaviors you want them to. Okay, so let's think. Oftentimes, as parents, we do things for our little ones. This may be because we don't have time for our little ones to slowly navigate through it themselves because they are so little and we just want to help them. Or maybe we're not even really noticing it. It's just part of our daily routine. We want to start increasing our little ones' independence in their lives and start teaching them instead of doing everything for them. We want to target goals that promote daily living skills and independence by choosing goals that are developmentally appropriate, functional, and meaningful. Developmentally appropriate goals refer to tasks that are reasonable for your child's skill set. If your child is still working on, say, their fine motor skills, maybe having them first just learn how to put their foot into their shoe is a more appropriate first goal than having them complete the whole putting on shoe routine themselves. Fastening the shoe at this stage might be too difficult, whether they're laces or Velcro. Functional skills mean that we don't want to teach something just for the sake of it, but rather because it has a purpose. We don't want to teach a child how to use a fork and knife yet if they're only eating foods that are soft and require a spoon. And of course, we want these goals to be meaningful. So next, I really just want you to think of these two questions when deciding where to go next. What is important to you? What skills will your child obtain that'll make your life easier? And what is important to your child? What are they navigating towards currently? What skills do they have? Where can they start? If they really want to start being independent in an activity, let's start there. If they really want to learn how to open a container to access their favorite toy, that's amazing. If they really want to learn how to feed themselves because every time you put a fork or a spoon to their mouth, they push it away and want to pick it up themselves, that's amazing. That's a skill that they want to learn. So think about these two questions and how they can work together. That'll really guide you to decide where to start next. Now, thinking of strategies and where to get started. The first thing we want to think about when teaching daily living skills, or really any skill that involves multiple steps, is a task analysis. A task analysis involves a skill and breaking it down into smaller steps within a sequence. This will make it very clear to you or anyone else supporting your child with this goal what the exact steps are in the teaching plan. Next, you want to determine what steps actually, can your child currently do on their own, if any? This means, what can they do independently from the sequence already? Once you've determined this, you can decide where within the sequence your teaching will begin. It's important to remember that you want to work on one step or skill within the sequence at a time. This way, you can ensure that your child is successfully completing that step before moving on and not getting too overwhelmed. Now, let's look at this task analysis on the screen for washing hands. We have the simple seeming task of washing hands actually broken down into 8 steps here. So your child first needs to approach the sink to be able to access water to wash their hands. Then they need to turn on the tap, whether it's 2 nozzles or 1 or just a hand sensor underneath. Then they need to place their hands under the water to get them wet. Next, they need to put soap on their hands, which could involve pumping or again, a sensor in a community or a bar of soap. What does that look like? Then they need to rub their hands together to get the soap and water all lathered. Then, of course, they need to rinse this off, turn off the tap, and dry their hands on a paper towel, a towel, or a hand dryer. So, what seems like a simple task is already broken down into multiple steps. Based on these steps, you would ask your child to complete this task or in a natural routine, maybe after using the bathroom or getting their hands dirty. Let's check out what step your child is currently at. So maybe you notice them, they have their hands all dirty and you said, wash hands. They go to the sink and they actually turn on the tap and put their hands under the water. That means they've successfully completed the first 3 steps of this task independently. So your teaching could begin at step 4 to have them learn how to get soap, lather their hands, scrub effectively, and then dry their hands. When moving forward with teaching your broken down task, we need to think about how we're going to teach it. This is typically done with some type of chaining procedure. Chaining is a series of related skills in which each skill in the chain provides a cue for the next skill to begin. There are 2 types of chaining procedures, forwards and backwards chaining. So forwards chaining, so say for example, we have our 8-step hand washing sequence. Forwards chaining, you would have the first step of the task taught first, then the next, until you reach the last one and have completed the whole teaching procedure. So if your child could not do any of the hand washing, you would first teach them how to approach the sink and then prompt or show them how to complete the rest. Or if your child started at step 4, like we discussed, you would start there. Backwards chaining is kind of the opposite. So the last step of the task is taught first, then the second last, then the third last, until you get to the first. So again, let's use our hand washing example. I would show them how to complete those first 7 steps, and then I would have them complete that last step of drying their hands and going from there. Next, there are 2 strategies that we're going to discuss that'll help teach a daily living skill. This includes prompts and reinforcements. When teaching a daily living skill, you will most likely be incorporating prompts and reinforcement. Prompting is any additional cue or assistance needed to help your child be successful in completing a daily living skill task. Prompting can be applied either at the end of the task, throughout the task, ongoing, or maybe just a period within, or both. There are 6 different types of prompts that we're going to discuss today and are probably the most common. There are a variety that you can use in either isolation, so just one type of prompt, or you can use them in combination. So first are physical prompts. This is probably the one maybe you're most common with. Include physical assistance through a task. This may be at varying levels, including full assistance, which is known as hand over hand. So you just kind of put your hands on your child's hands and kind of act from behind, or providing support at, say, the elbow or just the shoulder so that the child you can guide their arm, but they still have to grasp their fingers and hand by themselves. As a reminder, physical prompts are not completing the skill for the child. You are doing it to support the child. Then we have visual supports. These include using pictures or other visual items such as objects or drawings to prompt the child in a less physical way, or as a cue to support the child's understanding of the task. So you may have a picture of wash hands to cue the learner, we're going to go to the sink and start the sequence. Or maybe you're changing your child's diaper and you actually just pick up their physical diaper to cue that we need to go to the bathroom. Next, we have gestural prompts. This may include pointing, touching an object, or doing an action such as waving. Then we have positional prompts. So this involves placing a target item closer to the learner to help them become successful. So say we're brushing our teeth, you have your toothbrush on the counter and your toothpaste, and the child's kind of stopped at the step where they have to pick up the toothbrush. So here you could simply move the toothbrush a little bit closer to their hand as a cue that they need to pick it up. Then we have verbal prompts. These are any verbal assistance given that a child to help them complete the skill correctly. Verbal prompts are one of the most difficult prompts to fade or remove versus some of the other ones we just discussed. And then there's modeling or demonstrating a skill for your child. This is just demonstrating how that they can complete the skill so that they can see a model. After providing prompts to increase the child's independence, we want to fade the level of prompting, which essentially just means we want to remove the prompts in a gradual manner. You can fade prompts provided in a few different ways. First, you can fade the prompts by the level of force, which is the level of help provided. You can gradually do so, for example, by providing hand over hand. Then you slightly remove it by just partial physical, by guiding the elbow, then maybe a gestural prompt, and then a visual. Then you can fade the distance, which is the cue's proximity to the child. So this may start by standing right behind or beside your child, but then we're going to maybe take a step away, a couple steps away, maybe you're at the door, and then maybe you're just slightly around the corner. And then you can fade a prompt by time, which is the amount of time between an instruction and a prompt. So initially, when you give the child an instruction, you may immediately prompt so that they understand the next step until it's consistent. Once they have the skill and is consistently performing, then you can give the instruction and wait a couple seconds or wait a little bit longer before you come into support. Okay, so how to use prompts in daily living activities. Let's look at this example. So we're going to teach our child how to use a fork. We're going to start with the most level of prompting and reduce that. So first, we're going to stand behind your child. Tell him that you're going to help him use his fork. Place your hands over his hands from behind and physically guide him through the process of eating with a fork. This is the highest level of physical prompting. Next, we're going to reduce it a little bit. So instead of putting my hand directly over a hand, then maybe I'm going to put it more at the elbow or the arm just to guide the child's arm in the right direction. But they still have to grasp the fork by themselves and put it to the mouth. And then we could fade it further by at the shoulder and then maybe a visual prompt. Next, we're going to dive into a little bit more about visual prompts. So, there are a few ways you can use a visual prompt. You may have multiple pictures in a row to prompt a sequence like you see here for a task, or even multiple tasks in a day. Or you may just use a single picture to cue the task or the transition to the task, or pictures to support expressing or understanding communication. So maybe I have a stop sign visual. This indicates stop. Or again, that wash hand visual, maybe just one picture to show, okay, we need to go wash our hands. Or again, you can have this whole sequence or part of the sequence. So in this example depicted here, you can see both visual and textual prompts. The pictures act as a visual support of the sequence, and the written words act as written instructions for those who can read. So let's look at our fork example again. So first, based on the pictures and the text, we are going to pick up the fork, and we are going to stick the fork in the food. Then we put it in our mouth. We put the fork down, then we chew our food, and we swallow our food. So the second strategy to teach daily living skills includes using reinforcement, which is a behavioral strategy that encourages any behaviors that you want your child to repeat or increase. Make sure to take the time to find out what your child actually finds reinforcing, or this won't be effective. You probably need to do this each time because your child's motivation and reinforcement can change day to day or moment to moment. So depending on your child, there's different types of reinforcers, maybe sensory reinforcers such as listening to music, playing in the sand, getting an arm squeeze or a strong high five. There could be social reinforcers such as a smile or praise, tangible reinforcers such as a favorite toy, game, or an activity, or edible reinforcers such as candy or snacks, or reinforcers that were taught to be exciting such as stickers, check marks, or stars. So a couple tips to think about when you're using reinforcement. As they say, timing is everything. It should be given immediately after the completed action or task has been demonstrated. This will teach the child that specifically the action they have just completed is what we're rewarding them for. If we are consistent with this, that is what it's teaching. If we delay the reinforcement and say, oh, you're going to get this tomorrow or when you get home, it's really not connecting the dots of what the skill was that you are rewarding the child for. Next is be consistent. Make sure all family members or caregivers are on the same page and giving the same pattern of reinforcement, but also be consistent with yourself. Make sure you're providing the same consistent pattern and follow through. Pair tangible or other types of reinforcement with social reinforcement. So your child might not really know the value of being told a good job just yet. They have to learn what that phrase means. So you might have to pair it with their favorite snack or favorite toy to know that when you say good job, it means you're rewarding them for something that they just achieved. Give reinforcement in a proportion that matches the response or task. So make sure the reinforcement is valuable enough for the task. For example, if you asked me to come into work for 8 hours a day and you gave me a Skittle, that wouldn't really match the effort that I put in for 8 hours. So I don't know how long I would come to work every day for a Skittle a day. So if your child ends up completing a task for the first time with less prompts, give them more reinforcement. Maybe they just completed this whole complex task with no complaints, give them tons of reinforcement. If you notice today they're being a little bit lazy or super whiny through the routine, and you know that they can successfully demonstrate this routine consistently, maybe give them a little bit less today. A couple tips to think about when delivering positive reinforcement. To make positive reinforcers effective, it's important to follow some guidelines when using the strategy. Be aware of your reactions. The way you react to your child's actions may not be perceived the same way by your child. Just because you're excited about something doesn't mean they are excited too. Know your child well and pay attention to what is exciting for them and what's overwhelming or overstimulating or just not really enjoyable for them. So base your reactions off of those pieces. Reinforce for any improvement, even if it's small. Even when you're brushing teeth, maybe the child didn't successfully brush all their teeth today, but maybe they put the bristles to their teeth for the first time. That's a huge step. Give them reinforcement. Be excited. Also consider that daily living skills are often a series of combined complex skills. This is so difficult. Consider this and give lots of reinforcement. Be specific. Instead of just saying good job, tell them what it is that they did good. Wow, great job brushing your teeth today. And give a variety of reinforcement. You can give options so that your child doesn't get bored or is no longer motivated for the same item that you used last time. And then fade reinforcement over time as the skill becomes a routine. We don't want to have to provide these reinforcers forever. We gradually want to increase their independence and fluency of the skill. Consider some general strategies to help promote success of your child. It can be challenging to focus on, say, both dressing and eating for the first time all at once or in the same day for both parents and the child. Think about what's reasonable and work on one skill at a time. Be sure to teach when your child is most receptive to learn. So when they're alert and rested and fed, and they're not just overwhelmed today. And also consider your capacity at the appropriate time of day. So for example, make sure you have enough time to fully attend and teach and conduct the proper strategies. So if you know you have to go somewhere in a rush, maybe today's not the day to try this lengthy dressing routine when you're trying to get out of the door. Or when you're a multitasking parent, as you all I'm sure are, and you're cooking food on the stove, you're feeding your other baby, and you're trying to make sure everyone is getting ready to sit at the table, maybe it's not the time to try and teach using a fork for the first time or increase the level of independence today if you're not going to be able to prompt your child or reinforce success. Ensure everyone has buy-in on what's happening. We need to make sure all caregivers are on board, same with your child. Everyone needs to be motivated for this success and be reinforced, whether the parents are reinforced by their child's success or the child is reinforced with something else, or else this experience will become negative or really difficult to encourage success. And think about limiting distractions and practicing in an appropriate environment. So if you're teaching toothbrushing, have the child's toothbrush and toothpaste on the counter in the bathroom they use. And maybe don't have 7 other toothbrushes or toothpastes out at the same time. And have a plan of teaching before you start to teach the skill. Practice, practice, practice. Just keep going. It may take a little bit of time to learn these skills, but the more you practice in the setting, or like I said, in play settings or other settings, it's going to become more fluent for yourself and your child. And be patient. Have some grace with yourself and your child. Sometimes these more complex skills take time and are really stressful. So remember, it's okay to take a break and just start or try again later. And get excited about success. Celebrate the small things, the big things, all the wins. And use whatever resources you have. Ask a clinician, your behavior clinician in ETS, or your clinical supervisor. They have a lot of skills and knowledge as they get to know your child, and they might have had success in the ETS classroom that you can try it at home too. Go to the Erin Out Kids website. There's a lot of different resources that you can download, such as visuals. There's actual visual sequences for common routines. There's handouts describing certain tasks further. And look at parent workshops. We have lengthier workshop series on specific tasks such as toileting and feeding and all of these things. So take a look. They're on our website or ask your clinician. And just a few key reminders before we wrap up. Observe and assess your child's ability to engage in these skills and activities. Think about what's reasonable for you and your family. Determine which teaching strategies will help your child learn best. You know your child. Set realistic goals and remember that success may look different for every child and every family. You know your child best, and you are going to be their best advocate. Try out these strategies at home. If you need any more help, we are here for you at Erin Out Kids. Thank you so much for listening today, and have a great day.